Imagine if you could reach across time right now, in this moment, and connect with the version of you that exists a year from now. Would you do it? What would you say to this quote unquote future you that arguably already exists? Every year, as we approach the end of the Gregorian calendar year cycle, I enter kind of a reflective portal rather than giving myself a New Year's resolution or big ambitions, which can be hard to achieve in the dead of winter when everything is still and dead around us. So instead, I use this time as a meeting point between timelines, the timeline of who I am today and the future me that I am consciously choosing to step into. And for me, the way I connect these timelines is by building what I call a quantum bridge. A quantum bridge, the way I experience it, is an intentional energetic connection between the present version of myself and the future version of myself who already exists in the field of potential. It's the acknowledgement that time isn't linear, at least the way that we're taught. Past, present, and future are happening in kind of a dynamic conversation. And when I bring awareness to that conversation, when I choose to participate in it on purpose, something very powerful happens. I start making decisions from the frequency of who I'm becoming instead of the limitations of who I've been. That's what this bridge helps me do. It lets me reach forward and say, I see you. I'm reaching my hand out to you and I'm ready to meet you halfway. Now, I don't build this bridge with complicated rituals or hours of reflection. In fact, the practices I use, which I'm going to share with you in this episode today, might sound incredibly simple on the surface, but they're potent. I mean, really potent and powerful. So stay with me because in just a moment, I'm going to share with you the two simple rituals that have become the backbone of my year end practice and the very rituals that have helped me evolve year after year into someone I recognize more deeply. These may sound simple, but if you can do these rituals, they can change the way you experience time, growth, and your own becoming. The first ritual I do every year is writing a letter to myself. So on December 31st, New Year's Eve in the Gregorian calendar, I write myself a letter. I sit down and write to the version of me who will be opening that letter on December 31st the following year. I never remember what I write. Chances are you are not going to remember what you wrote. That's part of the magic. And I don't plan it out. I don't outline it. I just sit down and let whatever needs to come through come through. I mean, sometimes it's encouragement, sometimes it's a search for clarity, sometimes it's hopes or intentions, but really it's just the present me reaching to the future me, building that quantum bridge in real time. When December 31st comes around, I open the letter from the previous year, and it is always a profound moment. It's like receiving a message from the past timeline from someone who didn't know what was coming, but hoped and trusted and envisioned. To give you an example, on December 31st of 2023, I wrote myself a beautiful, heartfelt letter for December 31st, 2024, right? What I didn't realize at the time was how much pain I was still carrying from the year before. I had been struggling to release myself from something deeply difficult. I hadn't forgiven myself yet, and I couldn't find the purpose in what had happened. And I felt stuck in that like emotional loop. So, in that letter, without even planning to, I ended up writing words of hope to my future self. I wrote about my desire for this future version of me to find meaning in the pain, to uncover what lessons or purpose was laying beneath it. I wrote that I hoped I would find self love again, that I would be able to bring in compassion, that I would finally be able to forgive myself so that pain could become a pathway to a new life, not a prison. I completely forgot that I wrote any of this. So when December 31st came around and I opened up the letter, it hit me hard. I was reading the words of a past version of myself who was still hurting, still reaching, still asking for healing. And in that moment, something profound happened. I realized with this huge wave of love and gratitude that I had found meaning. I had created purpose out of that pain. I had transformed it in ways the previous me could not see yet. And what I went through was not done in vain, and I was no longer trapped in that prison. It was like receiving a message across time from the version of myself who desperately needed reassurance. And I finally had proof that the bridge I built between us held. I could feel it. I could see the growth right there in my own writing. And that's the power of this ritual. It lets you witness your own becoming. It lets you see the distance between who you were and what you've grown into. And that distance is a bridge. So at the end of the Gregorian calendar year, which is December 31st, I am reading a letter. Then I write a letter to be sealed and put away for the entire year. Now you can modify this, which I've also done before. And maybe you read the letter on December 31st and you write your letter on January 1st. Do whatever best resonates with you. The second ritual is something a friend of mine started many years ago. It's a word of the year, choosing a word for the year, which I'll explain is a simple practice on the surface, but the purpose behind it is actually very deep and multidimensional. Choosing a word for the year, and I'll explain why I keep putting that in quotation marks, but choosing a word for the year gives my inner world direction, a tone, and a focal point. Instead of overwhelming myself with dozens of goals or rigid resolutions, a single word becomes a guiding frequency, something I can grow into, explore, embody, and return to throughout the year. It acts less like a task list and more like an energetic compass, a teacher. It's another bridge. Now, just to be clear, this isn't about choosing a word, but rather receiving a word for the year. So, in other words, I don't sit down and like brainstorm it. I don't logically think through options of what I want my word of the year to be. As I start to approach the remaining months of the year, I stay open to receiving it. I usually receive my word in October, which seems early compared to many of the other people who I know that engage in this practice. October is my birthday month, and I tend to be very open in that month throughout Scorpio season. So I suspect that that's why maybe it comes to me in that month. But maybe you start becoming open to this word in November or December as the year gets closer to ending. Whatever time it happens, that doesn't matter. The word will slap me in the face and gets repeated almost in a synchronistic way. Like the word will start popping up everywhere. Now, this could look different for you. Maybe you receive your word once and it just hits you like, yes, this is it. You feel it with your whole body that the word you heard or received is it. It will just land in your awareness in kind of a certainty kind of way. I will give you an example of what my word for the year has been this year. So, for example, this past year, my word was maturity. I received that word and it has been the word of focus for this 2025 year. When a word of the year comes to me, it never arrives as a command. It's not like be more mature or more disciplined or whatever that word is. It comes more like an invitation and then like an energetic nudge. And what I've learned is that every word, no matter what one comes to you, has both a surface level meaning and a deeper, more personal meaning that only reveals itself when you really spend time with it. So when the word maturity came in as my 2025 word, I didn't just assume I knew what it meant. I actually sat with the word. I looked up definitions. I explored the etymology, where the word comes from, how it evolved. And if you look up the standard definition of maturity, it's usually something like the state of being fully developed or the quality of behaving responsibly. You know, that's it's very basic, very flat. And while all that is technically correct, it barely scratches the surface of what the word actually activated in me when I received the word. Because for me, maturity isn't just about acting like an adult or checking some boxes on an imaginary timeline. It's also emotional maturity, the ability to sit with discomfort without making it somebody else's problem. It's a mental maturity, the willingness to see things from more than one perspective, to pause before reacting, to ask better questions. And it's spiritual maturity, the understanding that everything we move through, even the painful things, has purpose in our evolution. Spiritual maturity is what lets me find meaning in my experiences instead of identifying with the wound. So when I talk about receiving a word, I don't just mean picking something that sounds inspiring. I mean sitting with the word, really looking up definitions, feeling into which ones resonate, or even defining it for yourself. I mean, you can do that. Create your own meaning of the word and bring that word with you throughout the year. Write the word on your mirror, or put that word as a screensaver on your phone so you remember it. Do whatever you need to do to remember that this is your word for the year. I won't reveal my word for the upcoming year yet. I'm still holding that privately because we're still in 2025, but I'll share it in a future episode as January is almost here. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. So, as we move into this next cycle, I invite you to consider creating your own quantum bridge. Write your letter, let your word come to you. This only takes a few minutes, and then give yourself the gift of witnessing who you become over the course of a year. If you decide to do these rituals, I would genuinely love to hear what your word is, how your letter writing experience feels, and what insights come to you. This is Earth School, and after all, we're all learning and growing together. And if you stay tuned, I will share my word for the year in an upcoming episode. Until then, may your bridge to your future self be filled with possibilities. Have a good week.